Hello everyone and welcome back to another Mara stock chart planning update video. In this video, I'm going to try to keep it super short and simple when it comes to me hopefully not repeating things like I do all the time. Um, but things can get very complicated within the current structure that we're in right now because we got earnings coming up soon. I'm going to go over that in a moment, and we have um, these weird supportive support lines that Mara tends to respect, these ranges, and it can get very confusing at times just because we've seen this happen in the past a lot. If you guys seen my videos from a bit earlier, like halfway through 2024, we saw a similar range forming where I used to call it accumulation zone, and I believe there's another one forming now, and it can get very complicated. It's not a good idea to overthink it. So I will try to express that and explain it in the best way I can. But just like I say in every video, guys, we're going to start off with Bitcoin first to get a better understanding of what Mara could potentially do. And please understand that everything in this video is just my own personal opinion. It is not financial advice because I tend to I'm not always right on my trades, but I do always stick with my analysis until I am proven wrong. So to get started, I explain this a lot in a lot of videos, so I'm not going to get too much into it, but as you guys already know, Bitcoin has been trading in this wide sideways um, pattern, sideways moving pattern for a while, and we're currently, so we got up, down, up. We're still down in the discounted portion. We've seen, just like we've seen many times before, and I said this in a lot of videos, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but we've seen these supportive fib extension areas being filled very nicely. We saw this one get filled further up here a little bit more, but at the same time, this area is also respecting the liquidity walls on the lower side and to the upper side. So the reason this matters a lot is because this is going to translate into Mara in just a moment, this sideways pattern, and then the short-termness of this and how we can see this continue to evolve Mara going forward throughout the rest of this month, just to keep things in a more short-term view, because there's a Bitcoin can do whatever it wants to do this year. We should see some big moves this year, and I personally believe it will be up to the upside. But basically, real quick with with Bitcoin, we found support, we found resistance. We're sort of trying to find support again. This support line kind of falls in line with this one right here. We can start moving up higher again. If we can finally break past these liquidity walls, then we have this next potential resistance zone. This is not going to be a major resistance zone. This is something that's just going to be there as a potential slowly take profit area for any smaller positions, because we've seen these zones max out a lot. Usually I represent them in blue. It's the start of a change of structure, and I as you can see, I had this one in blue previously. I had that there for a while, and then right here, continuation. So we had a structure changing here. We saw it come down, it came up, it was the last rally, and then new structure, sideways moving pattern. So now this can be the start of a new structure where we see the price, if it can finally break over this, it will come up, and it will be something quick. It will be like we'll see some supportive structures being made. So we come up, try to max it out, come back down, find support. Usually this happens within the same range. So we'll find support in the lower boundaries of it. It can be right up here above the supportive liquidity wall, and then it will consolidate usually super quick. It usually doesn't last more than like 2 to 3 days, and then we can start pushing up higher. This all depends though if we can finally break over these with enough volume. We don't want to see the price trending within this. We want to see the price break over these lines and not spend much time in there. This will create enough volume where we can potentially see some imbalances, which will then cause the price to come down to into the range of wherever we see the imbalance being formed. So it happens when there's enough volume and we in a short period of time. So we may see that soon enough. Come up higher, find support, around this area here. Potentially this is where the imbalances could be, but they will form as they come, and then we will use that to further, more information to determine where those supports can be. And then after that, we can then start pushing up higher and finally hit our next target area up here to try to fill in this imbalance. If this imbalance right here is filled, that'll be great. We'll find a little bit of a consolidation in this area again, and then we can finally start and try to break past these next liquidity walls, which will lead us up to new all-time highs over here in this area. So if it all starts with this right here. If this can be broken, we can start that pathway up. And then when it comes to the downside, we still have continued support here. We can easily come down. It can just be a little bit of a corrective move that we're seeing right now, and then it can start coming down and try to find support within these liquidity walls. But remember, the bottom of this supportive, like fib support in red that I use, it's all the way at 93,200. So we can easily see the price also. It could stretch all the way down, make a new little low within the structure, and hit lower 93K. It's very much possible. So it's just something to keep an eye on. But even if it does come down to this area, I see a very quick recovery. I don't think it's going to last very long. And then we'll start pushing up higher, and we'll continue from there. So now that Bitcoin's out the way, we can have, now if you guys understood everything I just said, this will make a little bit more sense as well. With Bitcoin still showing that little bit of short-term weakness, there's two pathways with Mara. The downside, I don't think it will last very long at all. We've seen this accumulation zone formed like a year ago, basically, a year ago, like just over a year ago, like around mid 2024. I forgot when, but I made a ton of videos on this. We're seeing something like that start forming again, where we're seeing the price come down from, trading for a bit of time within higher levels. We've seen the price come down, and it starts creating this channel where it starts slowly extending, and it will trade this way for a while. It can trade this way for like up to 2 months, like 1 to 2 months. And then finally it'll break and go past the division line of the premium discounted area, and then start, just repeat basically what it did here. And then it'll again drop and create a new channel after that eventually. So now, since we're in the early stages of that channel, and we found support so far to be right here within, it mixed. So this all happens in such a coincidence way. It's kind of crazy in my opinion. So, here's 2024. So here's that channel where you saw it come down. It tried to stabilize, had one more dip, like we saw right here, the one more dip, and then it stabilized, and it was continuously trading aggressively up and down within a channel, and constantly hitting the accumulation zone. And now, as you can see here, we have that trying to consolidate. We have the bigger dip, and then it would, just like that. So we have this support line that's been holding up pretty well so far, and looking forward, it held up here, and coincidentally, the supportive fib extension area that I like to use a lot, also perfectly represents or supports the ascending support line. And then it's kind of funny because these, unlike Bitcoin where they usually get maxed out, Mara is very, very shallow. As you can see right here, it was very shallow, and then it pumped. Very shallow, and it pumped. It doesn't mean it has to keep doing that, but it's very interesting to see these characteristics within the stock. And there's two things I'm looking at right here, right? If it's the downside one, it should be super short-lived, and I believe it's very important to take advantage of it, because if we were to come down, I don't believe we will go, even if we were to break below this a little bit or even come down. And we've seen this happen over here. It happened over here where it breaks down below the support line, and then it trades just a little bit, and then it starts pushing up higher, So we can potentially see something like that too, but it doesn't last long. So we can see this come down, either find support above the line, a little bit into the red, like we saw here, and then pump up. Or we can see it come down, maybe break below a little bit, try to maybe reach that 1.236, and then start pumping from there. But it shouldn't last long. It shouldn't last very long. It probably won't be more than like a day or two, possibly, right? The past does not have to repeat, but we've seen it, you know, repeat close enough where I feel confident just going off of that. So any weakness here should be taken advantage of, but not just a little bit of weakness. Enough if it breaks into the red, just I think it's a really good idea to start accumulating. We've seen this happen enough before, where where if we take advantage of that, it pretty much always rewards, and it doesn't take long to. Not guaranteed though, obviously. But also a continuation of this supportive line right here. So we have these premium areas within this structure that haven't been filled back up yet. We see it come down, and we had 3 tops basically. This is very shallow. I'm not going to count it. So we just had 2 tops, not 3, and then we can easily see another one happen soon enough. But it also depends on this. So here's the thing, right? So we have the short-term downside where it shouldn't last long. But if we do shoot up higher, these are different areas that I'm keeping an eye on as potential strong resistance until, for example, maybe the earnings report comes out, which I forgot to show you guys. But on the 26th post market, they're expected to announce earnings. As you can see, expectations for Q4, which is reported in Q1 this year. They're expected EPS change year over year consensus. They're expecting a positive earnings, and they're kind of aggressive on it, which makes sense because Bitcoin has been, Q4 of last year was insane. The prices kept pumping up, kept pumping. It made a ton of new highs, and it stayed in those highs forever, basically. So it's very reasonable if they're expecting a good earnings report. I'm expecting a good earnings call. Now that we got that one out of the way, I forgot to show that earlier. Short term bearish, super quick, shouldn't last too long. And then when it comes to the upside, just like here, we've seen it here, where it doesn't reach the 120 moving average. We saw it here, it doesn't reach it. It doesn't mean we have to, or it doesn't mean we won't reach it this time around. But it makes sense to understand that there is potential resistance separating itself from the actual moving average. So we can potentially find resistance here and come back down. And so far, that's what it looks like. And we are seeing lower lows and lower highs from there. So we are in somewhat of a downtrend, and the RSI is also showing that it's about to be overbought quite a bit soon. So if the price, for example, like let's say tomorrow it trends up more, this should pretty much max out as it nears this line right here. The reason that's cautious is because if this is so, we can see a rejection come back down. So then it'll look something more like this. And I would say, well, just have a long enough time horizon on your trade, and then it'll eventually come up to here. But like a lot of people that trade Mara, I know, trade this to be short term. They're not trying to hold on to it for a long time, at least. It's just how things are. So it just makes more sense to me. It's not worth your time. Maybe focus on a different stock. But as of right now, until this comes down back into the red, I personally believe that there is a much more likelihood of this finding resistance and coming back down and retesting the red rather than breaking past this. Because if it breaks past this, we still have the 120 to keep an eye on as potential resistance. And then we also have potential imbalance right here. This is potential imbalance. And then we have this imbalance, which has proven to be valid right here, where it treated it as a resistance, and it can definitely do it again. We've seen imbalances being successful or rejected and push the price back the direction it came from many, many times. We've seen it also in Bitcoin. So there's a lot of resistances on the way up, but the RSI plus the separation of the SMA right here, it just makes sense to be patient with Mara. A little bit of short-term weakness is reasonable. Come back down to the red and begin accumulating at the red area once again. So I personally think it's a good idea to be patient with this stock. I think it's very wise to be patient with Mara. Um, and just wait to see if it will come back down into this red area once again. So that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion on Mara. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys are just being patient. Maybe you have some other stuff on your watch list that you are interested in, and just, yeah, like I said, guys, just be patient with Mara. There's gonna be a much more clear setup happening soon. Let's see if we can come back down to this area right down here. So yeah, I'll catch you guys soon. Take care.